Hello, this is Mrs. Stotts. We are going to review Unit B of Excel by doing an example. I'm going to be talking here about Catherine's Cupcake Company. I have a list of items that I'm going to talk about right here on the side. This is a review of something that you saw in class, but you'll need to know how to do these items for your test. So let's get started. First, let's look at this. We have 6 months of sales. It talks about the supplies that she bought and how many cupcakes she sold. So in January, she bought $100 worth of supplies, and she sold 245 cupcakes here. We're going to be calculating her sales, how much money she made for each month, her profit. We're also going to do some totals here and do average, max, and min. Okay, so let's get started. Let's do the totals. This is the nice, easiest first thing to do. We're going to start right over here. We're going to calculate that total, and we have an auto sum button right up here in the corner. We're going to use that to find the total for that. So what we're going to do first is make sure that we click right inside of that, and we'll click that auto sum button, and when we do that, it brings a little sparkly box all the way around. Now this right here, this is a blank cell. We could reduce that sparkly little cell there, or we could just hit enter. It's 0 anyway, and so the sum's going to be enter. So we can click our enter button right up there, or we can hit the enter key. Here's the enter button right there. Now, if I want to copy this 900 over, one cell over, I'm going to click on the 900, and then I'm going to move my mouse cursor. See how it's going to come down and become a plus right on the bottom square, down there. It's going to become a thin black plus. When I do that, I'm going to hold and drag over to the next one, and I have just copied it. Now we're going to talk about our cells. By the way, we have just covered number 1 and 2 over here on our Let's Talk. Now we're going to talk about, and we also did copying a formula, so we did 1, 2, and 3. We're now going to do 4. We're going to talk about relative and absolute referencing. And what we did right here with the 900 and the 1830, we did with relative referencing. I want you to look at the formula for when we click on the 900 here. The formula is up here in this box. Notice that it's the sum of B4 to D10, that whole range. But if I scoot over to the next cell, we copied the formula, and it changed it for us to be C4 and C10. This is a relative formula, relative reference, because if something is relative, it means that it changes based on its position. We're going to do something that's called an absolute reference right now. We're going to calculate the sales, how much she made from sales. She sold 245 cupcakes for $1.25 each. So we're going to multiply those. You must remember that any time you do a formula, you must first put in the equals. Very, very important. Then we're going to click on the 245, which is really the C4 cell. We're going to multiply by using our asterisk. Then we're going to click on the F1 cell, and we have our formula. She made $306.25. Now we could do that copying thing we had done before. The little corner in the bottom right corner, and if we drag it down, something interesting is going to happen. Not what you expect. You would expect that it's going to copy the formula and figure out the sales for the rest of the months. But we are getting a 0. Let's analyze our formulas. We have C4 and F1 right here. But if we scroll down to the next cell, it says C2 times F2. And F2 is a blank cell right here. So it's multiplying by 0, so naturally the answer would be 0. But we don't want it to multiply by F2. We want to keep it to be F1 every time. So the formula that we originally put in here for the F1 needs to be an absolute reference. We need to absolutely stay. It needs to be absolutely 145. It needs to stay, and it can't change every time. So we're going to do something to make the F1 always be in the formula. We're going to do that by clicking on the F1 and hitting our F4 or our function 4 key at the top of our keyboard. And notice how we get dollar signs wrapped around it. That makes it an absolute reference. So we're going to hit enter. I'm going to click back on the 306. I'm going to drag it down again to copy. And now we get what we wanted. We get the formulas that we're wanting. Let's come over to calculate profit. Her profit comes from two different numbers. She did not earn a full $306 that month. She actually had $100 in supplies that she had to buy. So that comes out of how much she actually makes or her profit. And so that, we're going to subtract that out. So we're going to take our sales and we're going to subtract our supplies. Let's get started here. If you remember back, we always must hit an equal when we are making the formula. So now we're going to take our sales, which is going to be D4, and we're going to subtract our sales for B4. She made $206.25. We can copy that down by dragging the bottom right corner all the way down. Now, before I unclick this, is this going to be a relative or an absolute reference? Are all of these going to turn to 0 like the last one? No. These are going to be relative. We want the formula for both of the numbers. We want them to change. This one was D5 and B5. This one is D6 and B6, and we want them to change as we move down. Let's copy out our totals over to the side. We have now covered on our list of things 1 through 5. We're now going to go to 6. We're going to do some what-if analysis here. What if, how much money could she make? And would it be reasonable? And so we're going to look up here at her price. Her price was $1.25. We're going to change that price to see how much she could have made, since this is a report after the fact. But we could go up here and do some what if she would have had $1.50 for her price instead of $1,387.50. She could have made almost $500 more. And look, the profit and the sales changed automatically. This is powerful. Excel will do this what-if analysis very nicely, and you don't have to do much besides just put your numbers in. We'll change that back to $1.25, and notice my profit, my sales, and my totals are all going to change. Let's now calculate some averages. We're going to calculate the averages there's a couple ways we can do that. We could come in, type an equal, and then type in an A and a V, and we'll get an average formula in here. And we find that it gives us a little explanation if we click once, double click it puts the formula in, and then all I have to do is drag on the range that I want to calculate my average. We want the average for her supplies. Hit enter and be done. That's one way to do the average. The other way is we could come up to that auto sum that we had at the top up there again, come to the auto sum, but in this time instead of clicking on it, click the list arrow. So if we click that list arrow, we'll actually get an auto average. It's not quite the range we're looking for. That's okay. We'll just drag onto the range we want and hit enter, and there's our average. Two ways to find the average, and we can just copy it by dragging that bottom right corner over. We have a max here. We can find the maximum of her supplies and so forth all the way across. We can do that by hitting an equal since it's a formula. Type in M, see if we can find what we're looking for. Notice we're looking for max. You can see it right there. And I can double click to select it, and just like I did with the average, I can select the range I want. Hit that enter, we're done. We can do the same thing with finding the minimum value. Type an equal in there. Type in an M, and I can do MI because we know that's maybe what it starts with. Click once to just get a description, twice to get it in there, and select our range. Hit enter. The nice thing about what I did is I can now copy both of those cells over by highlighting them and then dragging them over from the bottom corner. The last thing I can do is we're going to talk about rounding. We could round any of these to the decimal place that we want. If we wanted our profit to be in whole numbers, we could come in here to our formula. Up here in the formula box shows our formula as the sum, and we're going to add a round function in there also. So we're going to click to the right of the equal and type in R, and we'll get another pull down here. We're going to look for round. Click on it once, you see a description. Twice, you get it. Notice it put an extra parentheses. We're going to come to the end of our, right there, we're going to put a comma. And now it's going to ask us, how many decimals do we want to round this to? We wanted to round it to the whole number, so we'll put 0. But we could have put 1. Let's see what happens when we put 1. We'll go back and fix it. Now instead of being 0.50, it's just 0.5. We're going to go back as I wanted it to be to the whole number, 0 decimal places, whole numbers here. We could, again, copy that down. So all of these are to the whole number, and there we got it. We have now covered all of the things that I wanted to cover. Thank you for listening.